The Big 12 Conference. This season, the Sun Devils host conference foes Baylor, Iowa State, Arizona, TCU, and Houston, all at Desert Financial Arena.
And another steal ahead to Miller, and Miller reverses it up and in, and he's fouled. Holy moly.
Join the action and get your Sun Devil men's basketball tickets today by calling 480-727-0000 or go online to sundeviltickets.com.
Now open in Scottsdale. It's United Forte Custom Door Showroom with 40,000 Euro doors and hundreds of state-of-the-art designs and finishes on display, plus kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, and more, all at wholesale prices. Builders, contractors, designers, and yes, you. Come see our showroom on Greenway Hayden Loop. That's United Forte, P-O-R-T-E. Stop by to see and feel the quality. United Forte Custom Doors. Find us at uporte.com. That's uporte.com.
There's something you can do today that will impact all your tomorrows. Open an AZ 529 Education Savings Plan. Contribute just $50 a month, and you'll have nearly $20,000 by your child's high school graduation, or as a great start towards your own education savings. Your money grows tax-free and can be used for college, vocational school, or workforce training. Learn more at az529.gov. Do it today for all your tomorrows.
This message is sponsored by the Office of the Arizona State Treasurer.
KQFN Tempe. Also transmitting on K257CD Phoenix at 99.3 FM and K240 EU Mountain Hills at 95.9 FM. Wherever you go, take us along. Listen to our live stream on our free Fanatic app. Download it today.
And welcome back to another day, hopefully another set of dollars here for you on Beat the Book, sports betting show, the only local sports betting show that we're aware of. I'm Keon Rose. Alongside me is our betting expert, Dylan Cohen. We are broadcasting live from Harmon Solar Studios at 1580 The Fanatic in sunny uptown Scottsdale. Today on the show, there's a lot going on around the National Football League. We're going to touch on a little bit of the trade deadline stuff. We had, obviously, Monday Night Football last night. Patrick Mahomes went a little crazy. We had a great game. Buccaneers, Chiefs, everything happening. We're going to talk about that. We're going to get to the Suns, by the way. They beat the 76ers. Yusuf Nurkic actually looked good, useful out there on the basketball court. We're going to get to that, too. And, of course, you're on the text line to give us your opinions. Talk to us about your bets, anything that you had last night that you managed to win, or anything that caught up to you and maybe you lost. We want to talk about it, maybe even commiserate with you right here on Beat the Book. But before we get to any and all of those things, Dylan, who powers the show?
We are sponsored by Sport Trade. And if you have not checked out Sport Trade already, they have the most innovative, seamless live betting experience that is available right now among all the sports betting apps in Arizona. So download Sport Trade today. Use promo code 1580 to take advantage of their 10% cashback promotion on new account signups. And of course, make sure you tune in to Beat the Book on Fridays, because that is when Sport Trade's CEO Alex Kane joins the show. And Sport Trade's been running this weekly contest here on Beat the Book, where the prize is a $100 Amazon gift card and $50 in cash sent directly to your Sport Trade account for you to gamble with. So if you like free prizes, and all it requires is just a text message submission to us, it's pretty, simple terms to win something decent, then that's one of the many things that's in it for you, by tuning in to Beat the Book. So make sure to join us again on Friday when we roll out the next weekly contest. It will be based on the Arizona Cardinals game against the New York Jets this coming Sunday, taking place here in Arizona. So you're definitely not going to want to miss that. Keon, we finally had a pretty exciting Monday Night Football game. Feels like it's been a little bit since we've had some good NFL entertainment on a Monday night. The Kansas City Chiefs, 8-0, undefeated. They had a home game last night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this was one where I mean, I was very confidently behind the Chiefs the whole time, but I have to say I'm very impressed with the game that the Bucks had yesterday. I did not see this game being as competitive as it was. This one ended up going into overtime, and you know, when the Chiefs win a coin toss in overtime, it's kind of like a death sentence. I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
there's this like video, there's this little clip of like Baker Mayfield's face.
I saw the video live. I was watching the game and you could just see the coin toss and then he just closes his eyes and just deeply exhales. He just knew that thing was over. I know that this is an argument that goes back and forth, but I actually can't believe the NFL has just one possession for an overtime. That's actually crazy to me because it's the point in the game where your defense is most likely to be tired, most likely to be beat up, and the person who gets that first disadvantage is decided by we flipped a coin.
It just doesn't feel totally right. It's like, you know, both of these teams put the work in to get to that extra period. So, you know, why wouldn't both teams get a crack at it, you know, on offense? You know, make it a little bit more.
You can't define it as what the league likes to call it. It's a brand new game. No, it's not. It really isn't. This is a different. It's not even football anymore. It's just a sudden death thing. That's all it is. And like I don't know. I hate it because I thought we got robbed of more good football. If the Buccaneers had a chance to answer, I think they would have scored. Both of these teams, it was like a last team to have the ball is going to win kind of deal. And if the Buccaneers had won that coin toss, I believe they would have won the game.
There's a whole other population of people out there that would absolutely be, you know, on your side of the fence here with wanting to have seen the Buccaneers get a chance in overtime on offense. And that would be the people that were fortunate to place bets on Baker Mayfield's passing yards. Baker Mayfield, coming into this game, 4 out of his last 5, he had thrown for 300 passing yards or more. And his line was like around 250. I think it was just under 250 coming into this. So I know some people that were like, hey, I'm just going to be really conservative. I'm going to take him for like 225 yards. Should be, you know, total lock. Those people were very, very sorely disappointed.
Yeah, I think Baker's Cocky Hens had one of those bets. Speaking of Baker's Cocky Hens, he's on the text line. He says, Todd Bowles blew it as usual. Dude can't make a pressure decision. He remains calm but makes the wrong choice and then looks dumbfounded when he loses. Baker should be a damn Brown. So there that is.
But, you know, Baker, I have to say, I mean, for not hitting, you know, his line on where it was supposed to be for, you know, the passing yards, like the guy is just, I mean, he single-handedly, to me, like kept the Bucks in that game, just put the team on his back. And, you know, Keon, there was, you know, a little bit of controversy towards the end of regulation in that game because, you know, the Bucks scored a very late touchdown to, you know, put themselves in a position where they were able to tie it, but they could have also gone for 2 in that moment and tried to avoid overtime altogether.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
Personally, I'm a much more of an aggressive person when it comes to these things. I like to go for 2 because I know I can score. I've got the end zone right there. I've got the ball and I can just turn to my offensive coordinator if I'm Todd Bowles and say, hey, what's our best play? Let's run that right now. And if we lose or we win, that's fine. But I had control over that. I don't want to be Baker Mayfield looking like I just, you know, turned into Ben Affleck in that meme. Like I want to be able to have control. The Buccaneers gave control away to a coin, essentially. I'm always on I go for 2. Unless I think my defense is great and my defense can suffocate anybody and we go into overtime and I think that we can get the ball back if we don't win the coin toss, I'm going for 2. And there's nothing about that fourth quarter that would suggest that you were stopping the Chiefs in that moment. So I go for 2. That's me personally. Dan Campbell's kind of like aggressive that way. I like that. I do that too.
I mean, I have to imagine Baker Mayfield feels, you know, like he wished he would have had that opportunity because, you know, they went the safe route. It went into overtime, and then Baker still never had a chance to try and put his team in a position to win, where he did essentially have that chance had the team decided to go for 2. but instead, they decided to just be a little less aggressive about it. And, they took the extra point to get the tie game. But, there were a couple of other things that were happening, if we want to really kind of lay the context out properly. Number one, that Bucs defense actually did show up yesterday. They had 4 sacks on Patrick Mahomes. A pretty strong day for them. But number two, there was this strange moment that happened. If I remember this right, it was in the fourth quarter because I started texting you about it. Patrick Mahomes on a rushing play out of bounds kind of took an awkward step, and then all of a sudden, like, he could not walk.
It was actually a touchdown throw. He was rolling to his right, and he was scrambling, and it looked like, he was going to step out of bounds. But then the defender was covering, I believe it was a running back. I can't remember who. So he slides up to keep Patrick Mahomes from running towards the end zone. So now his receiver's behind him open. So Mahomes tries to stop on a dime and throw it, and it was an awkward plant. Like, it looked bad. In slow motion, you can see his foot kind of buckle. He gets the throw off, completes the pass. It is a touchdown, but then he drops to his knees, and they had to walk him off the field. And
he needed Carson, 2 people to help him get just, across the field, which then it was like there's this moment of like, oh my God.
And the ankle was already taped, by the way. Like, that's so something was already kind of there. And, you see Carson Wentz warming up on the sideline, and that's where you had that moment like, oh, Carson Wentz is still in the league, and he's here in Kansas City, and he might actually play. And then Carson Wentz didn't play, thankfully for all of us. Because, well, I don't know, that would have been the best football to see.
So, I mean, there was like this minute or two where it was like, oh, wow, the Chiefs are vulnerable for once. And I mean, you pull Patrick Mahomes out of that roster that's on the field. And I mean, this is just a dramatically different team. So with Mahomes potentially being a little compromised in that moment, maybe thinking, oh, perhaps he's suffering, perhaps he can like hardly walk. We'll just finish him off in overtime. I can kind of see where there were some other things playing into the Bucs.
Maybe that's possible where it's like, but the thing is, Mahomes came back and looked otherwise fine for the rest of that quarter. So that's maybe to me where I'm like, okay, if he looks like he's still Patrick Mahomes, and he did, I'm not even going to mess with that. I don't want Patrick Mahomes to have the chance at having the football in an overtime. If I can put the dagger in him right now, I'd rather do that. And if I lose on that, I lose on that, but at least the game was in my hands. We're going to talk a little bit more college hoops there, Buffalo Mike, but he did say, because at the beginning of every show, I like to ask, what were your bets? What were your good bets? What were your bad bets? Good bet here for Buffalo Mike. He said, my Buffs basketball team started off slow last night against Eastern Washington, but they won by 20. I laid 16.5 points, so winner, winner. Early season NCAA can be challenging, and we're actually going to talk about that a little bit there, Dylan.
It's funny. Eastern Washington, there were times where in the past, U of A would, schedule one of if it wasn't their first game, it would be one of those first 3 tune-up games at home. And it's the kind of matchup where U of A is paying them, $1 million or whatever it is to come there. And Eastern Washington gave U of A a couple scares. I mean, I remember a couple of years where the final score was less than 10 points. There was one year where they were up at halftime, something really insane. So glad to hear that bet worked out for you. And we will definitely have some more to talk about as far as college basketball goes. Big tip-off day yesterday, more games going on tonight. No NBA on tonight. So college basketball really does get that spotlight that it normally would not have. Our very own ASU Sun Devils have a game tonight at home against Idaho State. So that will be something that's on for us to watch. But Keon, going back to that football game here, there was a player in particular that really helped Mahomes shine and really helped him, stand out and just show what kind of a value that Mahomes has as a quarterback. And that player is former Arizona Cardinal wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. This was the first time that we got to see how the Mahomes and Hopkins connection
really looked,
worked out.
That first week, obviously, he did play in the game. He did have a couple of catches, but that's that first week where you haven't even really looked at the playbook. You have no idea what this offense is, what your responsibilities are, what they're going to ask you to do. So this was the real game, because now you've got a couple of weeks under your belt to digest what they're asking you to do. You've actually gone through a full week of practice with these guys. And Yeah, I think it's going to turn out fine for DeAndre Hopkins in Kansas City. I think that's going to be okay.
He just fits like a glove.
Yeah.
I there were catches last night that, like, he might as well have just been wearing cardinal red. I mean, that was like they visually just looked so
where
simple.
Mahomes throws it essentially into double coverage into a rapidly closing
Over
window.
his head.
Yeah,
You know,
and
he's-
like the throw was incredible because the ball could only be in that spot. But the catch is insane because like it's just hanging up there, and like maybe one of those defenders could have gotten a hand on it, but he reacted so fast. He tracked the ball. It was like an over the shoulder. He just snatched it out of the air from between two guys, hauls it in, and then a third defender comes, and that collision is brutal, and he hangs onto the football and gets them in the red zone. And then 2 Kareem Hunt runs later, they throw it to him again back of the end zone, and Mahomes actually kind of throws it behind him, but just the insane body control to snag the football, get both feet down. Yeah, I think that's gonna work out just fine. Baker's Cocky Hens, by the way, says Patrick Willis Reed Mahomes. Willis Reed, notoriously, 1970, played a fantastic game on a bum ankle against the Lakers, I think. So
the similarities are there.
a little bit.
Absolutely. You know, I don't know why this didn't click with me until now, but you know, is there a potential remote chance that we might see Patrick Mahomes rocking Kyler Murray's former top 2 wide receivers in his offense? You know, so then we can kind of side by side compare the
Hollywood Brown.
production. Yeah.
Totally forgot that Hollywood Brown was still
so
in the NFL. That's how long it's been since he's been healthy.
News on that, because then I was like, oh wait a minute, what's going on with Hollywood? Because obviously, you know, he's dealing with I think he had surgery on his shoulder. You know, he's already expected to miss most of the season. So the consensus coming from Adam Schefter going back to September is that Hollywood Brown is going to miss the entire season, but there is a possibility that if there is a deep postseason run that he could join the team later on for that. So there potentially might be a late postseason, an AFC championship game, perhaps.
And it's the Chiefs. We assume there is going to be a deep postseason run for them. Like for other teams, you're like, if. For them, it's like, yeah, no, they're probably doing it. We'll probably see Hollywood. And, you know, at that point, maybe Rashee Rice is able to come back too. This feels like a three-peat already.
I'm just looking at the rest of the league, and outside of the Ravens, I'm like, who can beat these guys? Who can realistically beat these guys? Now, granted, like
maybe Detroit,
maybe Detroit.
Like you'd have to be in the Super Bowl at that point. Like I don't know.
Like on the one hand, it shouldn't feel so far-fetched because the Buccaneers almost did it last night, and they didn't even have Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. But I mean, just looking down the rest of their schedule here, actually, Chiefs have a big game in 2 weeks at Buffalo Bills, so that might be.
By the way, your Cade Otton receptions.
That was great.
Just absolutely hit.
That, you know, when things like feel really predictable like that, and I got to say, I mean, I felt just as good about like Baker getting 225 passing yards. So
yeah, and
I mean,
you know, if the NFL had overtime rules that weren't dumb, he probably would have gotten it.
But Cade Otton right now, he is the guy for Baker Mayfield. So when you look at the Buccaneers' next games and you're potentially going to bet props on those, Cade Otton receptions, it will take care of you. As long as the man doesn't have his top 2 wide receivers to throw to, Cade Otton is the guy. He's going to get his catches. But honestly, D-Hop, I mean, he had 8 receptions yesterday.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce had 14 catches. I mean, his line on receptions.
They targeted Kelce a bunch. Like every time there was a gap in the middle of the field, Kelce, and he didn't catch all of them. There were some times where you could tell the Buccaneers had clearly keyed in on him to the point where the moment he catch the ball, there'd be some Buccaneers defender punching it out of his hands. That's where a couple of his drops came from. But for the most part, he was active. And I just think that because DeAndre Hopkins can now stretch the field, you've got the middle open for Travis Kelce. D-Hop just made everybody's life just easier on that team.
So this is going to be a fun team to continue to watch. And like I said, I mean, they've got some big games still left on their schedule. So maybe someone can get, the better of them. But for now, I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs just have the NFL in the palm of their hand. You know, it's the NFL is their oyster right now.
Yeah. And it's just like there's a point where people are like, well, you should probably stop trading with these guys. But I mean, the Titans weren't doing anything. The Titans don't care who wins. They're the Titans. So of course they're going to make that trade. I just seem to remember a bunch of DeAndre Hopkins haters when he got traded from the Titans to the Chiefs. And I don't know if that's just like bitter Cardinal fan, that used to be our guy. And, we just don't want to see him in Kansas City kind of thing. I'm not sure, but there were a lot of people saying that he was washed up and he was over the hill. And I cannot stress enough how much anyone would look washed up if Will Levis were trying to throw the ball to them. He's not good. That team is not good. The Titans suck. And if you're a receiver with a bad quarterback, bad offensive line, bad running game, no other wide receivers, defense that can't stop anybody, you're going to look washed up too.
Well, and to that point, look at Derrick Henry and the kind of season he's having right now with a lot of talent around him in Baltimore.
Like, I think that people just think if you're individually great, you're individually great. And it doesn't matter where you go. You should be great everywhere. But that's not how it works in a team sport. What you can do is going to be severely limited or boosted by what you have around you. You can be boosted and be Sam Darnold because you've got Justin Jefferson to throw to and Jordan Addison and a run game that's really good and an offensive line that's pretty decent and a defense that is inconsistent, but mostly stable. Like you're not having a defense that's like they're getting torched on every possession. So you can actually see what Sam Darnold is when you've got all of the parts working. You can see what DeAndre Hopkins is when he's on a team where the pieces are working. So we're up against the break right here. That's our Monday Night Football conversation. We've got a little NBA to get into. The Phoenix Suns continue their hot streak, and they're in the fourth quarter. They were able to get back into a game, defeat the Sixers 118-116, thwarting the return of Paul George. We'll talk about that on the other side. You're listening to Beat the Book right here on 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
There's a wolf on the loose in Arizona. Its name is Ruben Gallego. Ruben's got quite a body count, a real wolf in wolf's clothing. Ask his ex-wife. He left her for a D.C. lobbyist. She got pregnant, and he divorced her just days before she was due. Ask anyone who's done business with Ruben, from the immigrants he swindled out of their life savings to that ambulance company he helped run. You know, the one that filed for bankruptcy and had to pay $2.8 million for Medicare fraud when he left. Or you can ask grieving families. After a mass shooting, Gallego told them, "F your prayers." He also said he would have killed American protesters on January 6th. Well, now he's coming for you. Gallego wants to unlock your borders to violence, drugs, and sex trafficking. He voted in lockstep with Biden and Pelosi. He wants to vote that way again for Kamala. You can't let that happen. Don't be his next victim. Stand up and say hell no to Ruben Gallego.
I'm Carrie Lake, and I approve this message.
Direct savings and client focus, the cornerstones of the Diamond Dave philosophy.
Hi, I'm Diamond Dave Cantor. My team and I at Desert Wholesale Diamond can be your trusted friends with an inside scoop on the diamond world.
Just like they are to thousands of people around the world.
And just like we have been for over 34 years.
At Diamond Dave's, it's all about the diamonds and the savings, not paying for high-end retail locations or the overhead of a mall.
You stand to save big time with our by appointment professional office approach combined with direct importing.
When you choose Diamond Dave's, you choose huge savings, top quality, and excellent service. Call, email, or message us for an in-person appointment.
Or sit back and relax for free FedEx shipping anywhere in the USA.
Call Diamond Dave at 480-397-2450. That's 480-397-2450. Or follow him on Instagram at Diamond Dave Cantor. That's at Diamond Dave, Kantor.
Progressive presents good news, bad news, dumb news, then great news. Good news. A letter in your mailbox says you could save money bundling your home and auto insurance with Progressive. Bad news. You saw it after your teenager backed the car into the mailbox. Dumb news. A new mailbox, basically a box on a stick, costs up to $400. Great news. You decide to see if you could save money bundling at Progressive.com and go with paperless mail instead. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Download our free sports app and stay up with all the latest sports news, scores, highlights, and more.
Or
stream us live anywhere
at 1580thefanatic.com.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic, Arizona's home for sports.
The Suns getting it done against the Philadelphia 76ers last night. And Dylan, what part of that game stood out the most to you? Because there are a lot of things that come to mind for me. You know, you talk about Kevin Durant and his performance, but what stood out to you the most? Nope. Okay.
We on?
Yep.
There we go.
Yeah.
I would say the final 6 minutes of the game is what stood out to me most. The Phoenix Suns were losing by 9 points. The score was 113 to 104. And this was a scenario that we found ourselves in many times last season. And I mean, I don't know this for a fact. I'd have to go back and check it, but it just feels like a majority of the time that we found ourselves down less than 10 points with 5-6 minutes left in a game. Like that was the kind of game that we could not win last year. Or if we did, like it just required some luck. I mean, it wasn't through, leadership and, cunning game strategy that, we pulled out wins in those situations. Last night, complete opposite. Last night, I mean, we just buckled down. We really stepped up together as a team, and Kevin Durant leading the charge, puts the Suns on a run where, for the final 5-6 minutes of the game, we hold the 76ers to just 3 points. So the final score was 118 to 116, but we were down 113 to 104, and we came back and we still won. So, for as great as, we're playing as a unit, to me, this speaks to coaching. This speaks to, the things that we're doing off the court in preparation, the kind of leadership that we have in this locker room right now to make sure that, we stick together in these moments and we don't just let these games get away from us. That is the difference between Frank Vogel and Mike Budenholzer. That's the difference between a group of guys playing for a coach that they respect versus a coach that they do not respect. So, again, I mean, Suns just continuing to just defy expectations. They look like a top 5 team in the NBA right now.
They really do. I think the thing that stood out to me the most in that game was, and we were talking about this a little bit before the show, Bradley Beal. 7 of 10 from the field, 3 of 5 shooting threes last night. And on a night where Devin Booker just didn't really have it, just shot a lot of threes. Booker missed all of them. He shot, I think he was 0 for 6. Like, it just, like, to have a night like that where your other star can step up. This big 3 this year feels more like a big 3 than what it was last year, which felt more like a big 2.5.
Well, and last year, and I think all big 3 combinations kind of go through these motions, but guys need to kind of reconcile, what their roles used to be with other teams as stars versus, what they are now being a cohesive unit together. And that's going to require some level of sacrifice. And, we saw this with Miami's big 3 and Chris Bosh learning to, be the third fiddle to D Wade and LeBron. We saw this in San Antonio, actually. That's probably another good one, just between, the roles that Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili play alongside Tim Duncan and, having to, feel out those kinds of things. For San Antonio, it's a little bit more organic because they drafted all those guys. They didn't go out and trade to acquire them.
Yeah, but there's still, especially the guy that kind of ends up being that third part of it, he has to learn how to quiet that instinct to be the guy. Like Bosh had that. I think Ginobili had that. They drafted him, but Ginobili had played for years in Argentina. So he was, already used to being that alpha in the locker room. He just controls everything. And now you're kind of sliding in behind Tim, who didn't really have to change anything because you wouldn't. But then Tony, and then you got to have to figure out how you fit in with all of that. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that there's some version of that you have to have someone take their ego and put it to the side, and it just has to be Beal. Because if we're going to compare this to the Spurs, Tim Duncan's the guy that doesn't change anything. He just is what he is. Or compared to the Heat, LeBron's the guy that doesn't change anything. Durant is the guy on this team that doesn't change a damn thing. He just does what he does. Those guys are that they don't have to figure out a whole lot. It's the guys like Beal, it's the guys like Bosh or Ginobili, where you've got to figure out, like, I am a good player, but what do I do for this squad? And Beal's starting to figure it out. And I think that part of that is the structure of a Budenholzer offense. Vogel's offense didn't really have a structure. And I think that you can tell, like, it looks like a night and day difference out there.
Well, and I think what also helps that process for Beal is just playing for a coach that is a better people person, is a better communicator, is a better leader, is just someone that motivates you better to, figure out what that role looks like and how do you play that part as best as possible. That's what we're seeing right now. Bradley Beal, you can just tell that he loves being a part of this unit. He loves this role that he's carving out for himself. He loves playing for Mike Budenholzer. And I'm pretty sure it was Bradley Beal. There was that whole clip from last season and it happened towards the end of the season, where like Bradley Beal just straight up shoulder checked Frank Vogel, like checking out of a game one time.
Yeah, it was sort of like Vogel was standing there and Beal saw him, but didn't adjust his course at all and just walked right through him like he wasn't there. Like Frank Vogel has a lot of, I still think like a lot of good things about him, but as far as being able to come in and manage the egos, he was not good at that. Like, that's just not his strength. The teams that he's had where he's been really good with, you think back to those Pacer teams, like those guys were all young and drafted and they came up with him as their coach. I don't know if that's the guy that you can plant in just anywhere and just say, go out there and get these guys to respect you, because they clearly did not. And it also didn't help that Vogel continues to be largely more defensive minded than offensive minded. So his offenses are very simple. And when you have guys with this much talent, like, they're trying to tell you there are different ways that you can use us. You can deploy our skill sets. And Frank Vogel just wasn't good at figuring that out.
No. And, the other thing with Frank Vogel too, like going back to those Pacers teams, Miami was villainized back then. And I think he was able to get those Pacers teams to rally around the, goal of overcoming the big bad Miami Heat and the Heatles.
Yeah, but like, also look at the guys he had on that team. Like Paul George is just a pretty affable guy. Like, he's a very coachable player. Like, Paul George could play for anybody, and you're probably not going to hear a whole lot of drama. I would say the same for Roy Hibbert. Like, Roy Hibbert,
David West too.
David West. The only guy that was kind of a wild card was Lance Stevenson, and they never had any problems because that's the only guy you have to figure out, like, how do I keep this person in line? Everybody else kind of fell in line because that's their personality. Now, what do you do when you're playing with, a guy like Bradley Beal who's had some playoff success, like you're in the semifinals in a couple of years, that like he hasn't needed you. Durant hasn't needed you. Booker hasn't needed you. And like now you're trying to get those guys to respect you. That's just a different skill set. He didn't have it.
So, with the Suns yesterday, it's not all just Budenholzer. It's not all just Kevin Durant, and it's not all just Bradley Beal. Like, we're getting other contributions. Royce O'Neal played 24 minutes last night, 15 points, 3 of 4 from 3-point. He has just been a very stable, just present force for us off the bench. And, for all the hype that we do give about Ryan Dunn on this show, he had 10 minutes last night, 4 rebounds, didn't manage to hit a shot. But I mean, it's just such a small amount of time to try and get in a game and build a rhythm that, I just don't hold that as much against him.
No,
when we've seen him step up lately, it's in these games where Beal isn't playing. So, there is kind of a void that needs to be filled, where last night, we have Beal, we have Grayson Allen, who's starting to pick things up.
Yeah.
We've got Royce O'Neal. So it's going to get a little bit more challenging for Dunn to, have the same kind of opportunities that he got in the first 5-6 games and, really show his worth. But, it's still absolutely someone that should be considered among the best of this rookie class so far. He's, shown that much. He's going to continue to get more opportunities. And how about Yusuf Nurkic?
Yeah, finally. Welcome to the season, big fella. Double-double, 15 points, 15 rebounds for Jusuf Nurkic. 1 of 3 from 3, which I like. I like the low 3-point low 3-point attempts from him. I don't want to see Jusuf Nurkic take 5 threes in a game, which he was trying to do. He's not great at it yet. That's not him. Maybe Bud can turn him into that, because
him and Ryan Dunn should be like shooting the same amount of 3-point shots.
Like just a couple
in practice.
Yeah, because I mean, Bud is also the guy that took, Brooke Lopez and turned him into a 3-point shooter. So I trust that can happen, but that's not something that he's good at yet. And I don't want to see him shoot 6 threes in a game like he did, I think, the second game of the season. It was horrific. And honestly, it kept him out of position for what he's great at, which is rebounding the basketball. And it was good to see him get back to that again. Really good boxing out. The effort was there, and he was cooking.
I mean, he played almost 30 minutes. So like the minutes were really, really encouraging to me.
Because it looked like Bud wasn't trusting him. Like the minutes you could just see it. He started with 30 and dropped down to 28. He dropped down to 24.
Like, what's the plan with this guy? I mean,
like, do you just hate him? Because wow, that's fast. The season just started.
Well, and look, I mean, if that's kind of the route we're going to go down, then, fine, let's shop him. Let's, get whatever assets back we can. I mean, my whole thing was I just didn't want to see it linger. I didn't want to see us, a month and a half into the season, Nurkic is still getting 18 minutes and like 7 rebounds and 5 turnovers a game. I mean, at that point, that's a problem. But if last night is the start of, some more kind of regular play from Nurkic, and this is the kind of stuff we can expect out of him, I mean, this is a lot more in par with the Nurkic that we had last season, which, we were ultimately impressed with. I mean, we didn't think we were going to get 76 games and, the kind of production that we got out of Nurkic, but, he definitely was motivated. I think playing with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker does that to guys. So perhaps Coach Bud is figuring that out a little bit more, and hopefully that's a trend that continues.
You'd hope to see it. Let's jump to the text line really quickly, because we had Niner Napolis send in a text actually during the commercial break. So this is actually a reference to the NFL conversation we were talking about earlier, the change of scenery and how that can help people. Niner Napolis says, what was that? Hold on. Let me see here. He says, to add to that list, look at Saquon and the change of scenery. Saquon Barkley is the best version of himself. He's running behind an offensive line that's actually good, and he's not getting beat up nearly as often. He's not taking quite the shots that he was. He's less of a sitting duck. And now we get to see Saquon jump backwards over people. That's just a thing that he does now. He's not really been injured at the level that he was when he was in New York. Funny how that works. Like, it's just, you've got to look at a team and say, how does this guy fit here? Not he's good or he's washed, but does he just not fit, which happens?
Well, since we're on this topic anyway, I think we definitely need to say this. There was a trade that went down today, and this was something that, I mean, you and I could sense the passive aggressiveness from Aaron Rodgers, like since week 2, week 3.
Mike Williams has been out in the cold, but I'll let you get into it. Set it up.
Well, so, Mike Williams got traded today to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and this is a move that I definitely think a change of scenery is going to benefit Mike Williams greatly with, because, the way that his season's gone so far right now, it just seems like Aaron Rodgers made a decision very early on that this guy doesn't, he's not running the routes I like. I don't trust him. Like, he's dead to me.
He said it on multiple occasions. Whenever there was a miscommunication or something like that, Mike Williams isn't running the correct route.
So
you're just like, why?
Well, and I mean, we saw through all this. I mean, Mike Williams' time as a Jet was numbered, and this was going back to very early on in the season. So then, ironically, this is the day that Pat McAfee has Aaron Rodgers on his show. This trade happens to go down while Aaron Rodgers is on the show. So then they're able to get his feedback live about this. And Aaron's saying a lot of good stuff about Mike, saying he's a hard worker, keeps to himself, doesn't get into trouble. And then he just said this one thing that just kind of set me off. I thought it was the most ridiculous thing in the world. He starts talking about how Mike Williams had the torn ACL last season. He's been working really hard to overcome it and get himself back onto the field. And he makes some snide comment about how Mike Williams was working out on his own and wasn't in training camp. And it's like, dude,
didn't you go to Egypt and miss training camp? Are we being serious right now? Are we being actually for real?
Like of anyone to try and just hold someone accountable, like, oh yeah, he's not having a great year, and oh yeah, he wasn't in training camp. Like, come on, Aaron. I mean, it already hurts enough that you are like the de facto GM that made this happen along with some other moves, but that's just, I mean, you got to look yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, like just be honest about what that is. You don't like him. Now, you weren't going to sit there on TV and say you didn't like him, but the training camp stuff, unnecessary, especially given that Aaron Rodgers himself missed training camp time. I've had enough of that guy. Like, I just genuinely am over Aaron Rodgers. I can't. Like, immensely talented football player. What a horrible person to have to be a teammate with. Mike Williams is free. And by the way, you can talk about however cringy Russell Wilson is. He is. But he's also just largely considered to be a pretty good teammate. And you get to join George Pickens in that offense. I think that Mike Williams is going to do some things in Pittsburgh. They just got a whole lot scarier. They just got a whole lot better too. By the way, speaking of trades at the deadline, I don't want to do anything crazy because we're up against the break, but like the Cardinals making that move for Arden Key from the Titans, that's a really good trade.
Well, and then I want to say, didn't we get, I just read something. We also just got like a pass rusher. It was a guy from the Bears, I want to say. I could be wrong on this, like Browning, something along the lines of that.
Yeah, no, we got Browning, which Baron Browning, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know as much about him.
Okay.
But Arden Key's just a really good football player. Like, the Cardinals don't have a middle of their defense. They've struggled to fill that linebacker spot forever. Arden Key's a really good linebacker.
I just love to see us be buyers right now, instead of just sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah.
We have this good momentum. We're first in the NFC West, which is insane.
Yeah, at 5-4, you should try to get better. And I like what they're doing. And it's a good move by Monty Ossenfort as he continues to try and build out this defense, which I think is it's a well-coached defense. It just needs more talent. This is absolutely going to help. All right, we've got the picks for today coming up a little bit later. At least we're going to talk about that. Just some things for you to keep an eye out for. And then get to any other news and notes that we may have missed. You're listening to Beat the Book right here on 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
Hi, guys. Jeffrey O'Brien here. Have you ever gone to HarmonSolar.com? Well, you really need to, because everything you ever wanted to know about how solar power can save you big on your monthly electric bill is right there. It's online. Through your phone or through your computer, you can learn about tax credits, the equipment they use, look at how they do things for businesses as well as homeowners, see testimonials from happy customers, and I hear they got a pretty good podcast too. Check it out. Go to HarmonSolar.com. That's HarmonSolar.com.
Build up to Black Friday with savings all month long at Lowe's. Right now, get up to 35% off select major appliances. Plus, save up to $500 on select LG major appliances. And get holiday inflatables for under $20. Because Lowe's knows deals. Valid 10/24 through 11/5. Applies to select LG major appliances only. Cannot be combined with additional discounts. See Lowe's.com for details and qualifying items. While supplies last.
In most countries of the world, Porte means door. United Porte Custom Doors, located in the Scottsdale Airport Design District, is now open with over 40,000 European doors, all in stock, ready for delivery, and at wholesale prices. Designers, contractors, builders, and yes, you. Come see our showroom on Greenway Hayden Loop. That's United Porte, Porte. Stop by to see and feel the quality at United Porte Custom Doors. Find us at uporte.com. That's uporte.com.
Unsure how to cast your vote for judges on this year's general election ballot? The Arizona Commission on Judicial Performance Review makes it easy for voters to understand how Arizona judges are performing. The commission evaluates judges using nonpartisan codes of conduct and public input to make recommendations for voters. Finish your ballot with confidence. Learn more about the judges on your November ballot by visiting azjudges.info. That's azjudges.info. Remember, your vote matters. Sponsored by the Arizona Commission on Judicial Performance Review.
Don't miss a minute of the action when Sun Devil football returns to Mountain America Stadium to take on Big 12 conference rival UCF in ASU's annual Salute to Service game. Levitt keeps the ball, takes off and runs to the left, to the 10, to the 5. Levitt dives for the end zone. Touchdown Devils! A 17-yard run by Sam Levitt. Get your ASU UCF tickets today by calling 480-727-0000 or go online to sundeviltickets.com.
Hey, sweetie, what you doing? Looking around for jobs. Offices, 9 to 5. I don't want anything boring.
You know, Brian's daughter's in the Phoenix Police Academy. Pretty sure she's not bored.
I never thought of that.
Check out joinphxpd.com and take a look.
Over 80 specialty details like detective and canine handler. What else? Dignitary protection, 911 operator. They have aviation and dive team jobs? What?
Rise to serve. Find more today at joinphxpd.com. Protect and serve with the elite.
Sponsored by the City of Phoenix.
1580 The Fanatic.
And at 1580thefanatic.com.
Your home for sports.
A couple of texts on the text line. One that I actually missed from Hefty Lefty earlier. Hefty Lefty said, Yin Yang Twins at 2:22 p.m. That seems like a sign from above to hit up the candy store. Thanks, gentlemen. You're welcome. The other text that Hefty Lefty said was Browning from the Broncos. Solid player, but the Broncos didn't really need him anymore after they extended a different edge guy. Browning has a 17% win rate on his pass rushes, though. The guy he is replacing on the Cards only has like an 8% win rate. Good rental pickup for the Cards. Good job by the Broncos to get a pick for an upcoming free agent. So there you go. And if he shows out for the Cardinals, then you go ahead and pay that guy. There's some value there. Golden Domer says, I'll take Harris to cover the 3.2 million popular vote and Embiid at 3+ game suspension this season. So there you go. The little election handicapping from Golden Domer. I don't know how you came to that number, but we were kind of talking about it yesterday. You were warning people, don't try to probability bet the election. Please don't do that.
Yeah, it political odds making just doesn't function the way that like sports odds making does. That's probably just the most simple non-political way that I can describe the school of thought behind that. So it's just not the most responsible betting out there. There's definitely better ways to invest your money in the sports betting world. Also, Hefty Lefty, that was not Yin Yang Twins. That was Little John and the East Side Boys. But I appreciate the shout out.
It reminded him of, as he said, the candy store. So that's really all that matters. I don't think that he's necessarily hung up on who did the song. Same vibe. Same vibe.
That is definitely for sure. So, as far as what's going on for today, don't have any immediate picks on the games going on today, but I wanted to shout out something that I'm seeing in the futures market for college basketball. If you look at the current odds for the Wooden Award winner, it's going to depend on which book you're looking at, but this was just something I noticed on FanDuel, which was interesting. You would think Cooper Flagg would be somewhere ranked pretty high on that list universally among all sports books, offering a line on Cooper Flagg to win the Wooden. And I thought that was really strange. I mean, you can scroll through this really long list that they have on here. It looks like there's at least 40, 50 names. I mean, the longest odds people are 250 to 1. The favored person on FanDuel is Mark Sears from Alabama at 6 to 1 odds. But if you move over to DraftKings, theirs looks a little bit similar, but they split Cooper Flagg out, and he is his own line, Cooper Flagg, to win the 2024-2025 Wooden Award, and it's currently priced at 6 to 1 odds, plus 600 if you think he's going to win. So naturally, I mean, I'm trying to understand why FanDuel doesn't have a line on it, and I just have to assume that they don't want that liability for whatever reason, or maybe they're just waiting to see how the landscape kind of evolves a little bit more, see, how Cooper performs in a few more games before they're willing to put odds out for it. However, DraftKings is willing to take that action right now. So then I, kind of take a step back and wonder, well, maybe FanDuel thinks Cooper Flagg is fairly likely to win the Wooden Award. DraftKings, based on the odds, thinks he is the most likely to win the Wooden Award. Now, winning the Wooden as a freshman is not easy. It's been done before, but it doesn't happen very often. Keon and I actually went back. We looked at the past winners. And if you look at the last 3 freshmen that won the Wooden Award,
there's some names there.
There's some big names there. I mean, this is going to be a pretty, high caliber class that Cooper would have to be a part of in order to see this through. The most recent one was Zion Williamson, 2019. Then before that, you have to go all the way back to 2012 with Anthony Davis. And then prior to that, you have to go all the way back to 2007 with Kevin Durant. So then that kind of begs the question, is Cooper Flagg going to eventually be, of the caliber of a Zion Williamson, and Anthony Davis, a Kevin Durant? And, we haven't seen a whole lot of this guy on the collegiate level, but we've seen him in other places, and we've already seen what he looks like stacked up against the best of the best in the NBA. And this guy can hang.
He looks pretty damn good. Yeah.
So, I look at this right now, and yes, 6-1, you're going to have to wait out, all the way until March, April, whenever this would end up paying when the regular season concludes. Keon, you think Cooper Flagg's got a shot at winning that Wooden?
He does. I mean, he absolutely does. I think he is the caliber of basketball player in that same vein of a Zion Williamson and a Kevin Durant. Like, though he's a great shooter of the basketball, he's got an inside game. He's got an outside game. He handles the basketball easily. He's a willing defender. What you need to win the Wooden Award isn't just scoring ability. You need to be able to take over a basketball game. Zion could do it. Obviously, Kevin Durant could do it back at Texas. Anthony Davis could do it at Kentucky. But then, the other level of either you're a playmaker or you're a rebounder. Like, what other ways can you impact the game? Cooper Flagg, it's kind of limitless for him. And he's on a good squad. They're going to win a lot of basketball games. They're going to be very dominant. And I think that he's going to also have those moments. It's not quite like the Heisman. Like, the Heisman Award requires that you put up monster numbers, you be on a team that's pretty damn good. But then also they talk about that Heisman moment. Like, when's the game where we were like, that guy's for real? Cooper Flagg's going to have those for the Wooden. It's not quite as important, but it is a factor of when's the game where you're like, okay, that guy's arrived. The game for Zion, when he blew his foot through the front of his shoe, that's a moment where you're like, okay, he's
a freak of nature.
Yeah. You're going to get the attention of voters, and Cooper Flagg absolutely will. He's got everything that you could look for. Hefty Lefty on the text line saying, but Yin Yang Twins are featured in that song. But yes, Lil Jon and the East Side Boys are the primary artists.
That's true.
Both of which get me just as excited to throw dollar bills in the air for dancing professionals on their stage. So there you have that.
For this Wooden Award argument, I think just literally playing for Duke University helps. Since 1999, there have been 5 Wooden Award winners that all played for Duke University. That is the most of any university over that time period. So, it is one of those awards that does get a bit political. So that's where, having Duke across the chest is going to help.
It does help. It can't not, but also just being in all those primetime games, playing on the East Coast, which is really huge, actually. Guys that win the Wooden Award and play out on the West Coast or play out here, even in Arizona, it's a little bit harder for you to win that award because most of the people voting are asleep by the time you're playing. That just is a factor. It's not a fair factor, but like you said, the politics are involved.
Actually, going all the way back to 1999 right now, there isn't one winner that came from a West Coast school.
It almost never happens, even if you're great.
Andrew Bogut for Utah in 2005. And if you want to call Utah West Coast at that
point.
because
it is Mountain West. It's because it's just the time zone is really what we're concerned about. And yeah, Utah would qualify as the kind of team you would normally not pay any attention to if you were an East Coaster, you were asleep already.
Ed O'Bannon, 1995 UCLA.
Like, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to win this award, you got to play for Duke or Syracuse or even Miami. Like, you'd have a better chance of winning the award there. And that's not even really a basketball school. Like, you'd have to be in front of people having these moments. And it's just harder to do in the West Coast region.
I can't remember another like really highly touted college basketball, prospect coming in to play their first year of college basketball that already, before ever having played his first official game, although he did already play his first official game the other night, like this guy has the endorsement of elite NBA players because they've seen him, they've played against it live. But
yeah,
I mean, even for the guys that haven't played against him, that have talked to people that have, like the league's already endorsing Cooper Flagg making it there, regardless almost of what kind of a season he has.
Like he just feels like a more athletic Luka.
He really does.
He has the ability to control the game, but he's playing above the rim. I don't know if you've seen some of the dunks this dude throws down. It's insane.
But he's faster too, so that's just
like he's an actually explosive athlete. Like this has the potential to be a very scary college basketball season.
So that is the pick from us. Cooper Flagg to win the Wooden Award. You can get it on DraftKings at 6-1 odds plus 600. And that's all I got, Keon.
And that's going to do it for us. You've been listening to Beat the Book right here on 1580 The Fanatic. Daily Blender is coming up next. Hefty Lefty, Golden Domer, Niner Napolis, Baker's Cocky Hens. Thank you guys for participating in the show, and we'll see you tomorrow.
There's a wolf on the loose in Arizona. Its name is Ruben Gallego. Ruben's got quite a body count,